Was there an exchange of money? Was there promises? Was there favor? Who initiated, if any?
The Doug Ford government now the focus of a criminal investigation.
Tonight, the RCMP launched a probe into the Greenbelt controversy. Good evening. It's the latest stunning development in a scandal that's rocked Queen's Park and the province.
The Ford government already accused of violating ethics rules, and now police want to know if they broke the law, too. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us with tonight's top story. Siobhan.
Well, the section of the RCMP looking into this typically looks into allegations of things like breach of trust and corruption, a sign of just how serious this political scandal has become. The Premier had tried to turn the page with an apology and a reversal.
It was a mistake to open the Greenbelt.
But now a new chapter, with the RCMP looking at whether laws were broken. The Mounties tell CTV News their Sensitive and International Investigations Unit is looking into allegations associated with the province's decision to open parts of the Greenbelt for development. The Mounties say they recognize this investigation is of significant interest to Canadians, but they have a duty to protect the integrity of the process, so they won't be saying more. Probes by the Auditor General and Integrity Commissioner have found a chaotic land removal process, brown envelopes and USB keys being passed around. 2 cabinet ministers and 2 political staffers have resigned. But is there anything criminal here? The Premier said in August he didn't think so.
You know, I'm confident I won't tolerate that.
That was before the Mounties announced they'd investigate.
If they do, I take it very serious, extremely serious. And I'll have zero tolerance if there's any nonsense going on.
The Premier's office is echoing those words today, writing, "The government will fully cooperate with any investigation. We have zero tolerance for any wrongdoing and expect anyone involved in the decision-making about the Greenbelt lands to have followed the letter of the law. Out of respect for the police and their process, we will not be commenting further at this time."
Did this government give preferential treatment?
Opposition parties welcome the probe, but
I don't want the Premier to use this as a way to hide from us and our questions on behalf of the people of Ontario in the legislature.
The Premier has said he didn't know about the Greenbelt land removal process. Today, his office says he hasn't been approached by the Mounties for an interview.
I've said all along that all roads lead to the Premier's office in this scandal. So I can't see how the Premier and his office are not going to be implicated in it.
Over the weeks and months ahead, there could be interviews with current and former politicians, political staff.
And there's all the risks of those who are associated with this decision but not affiliated directly with the government, the so-called Mr. X's and others. All of it is cause for sleepless nights if you're Doug Ford.
We also learned this afternoon that the Auditor General is launching an investigation into the issuing of ministerial zoning orders with the point of building more housing. You'll remember it was the Auditor General's report 2 months ago that led us to today. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And today's developments come after months of twists and turns in Ontario's Greenbelt scandal.
CTV's John Woodward joins us now with more on how we got here and what could be included in this RCMP investigation. John.
Yeah, Nathan, this is a scandal that has gone from rural farmland to Queen's Park to Las Vegas and back. And all of this could be examined again with new eyes and the new powers of police officers.
The question first raised a year ago about how a developer seemed to know to purchase a tract of land in King Township before the provincial government took it out of the Greenbelt, a major windfall for the landowner. Over 15 properties, the Auditor General found that could have added up to $8.3 billion, a biased and unfair process, but it's up to the RCMP to determine if it's criminal.
Was there an exchange of money? Was there promises? Was there favor? Who initiated, if any?
Former OPP Commissioner Chris Lewis says the force is likely looking at the possibility of a breach of trust, which has significantly raised the stakes.
This is different because if the RCMP find there was laws violated, people are charged, brought before the courts, and ultimately could go to jail. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars involved here.
Tasked with this, the RCMP's Sensitive and International Investigations Unit, which says its responsibilities include to investigate allegations of fraud, financial crimes, corruption, and breaches of trust, and investigate allegations of illegal lobbying activities. The Integrity Commissioner looked into a Vegas trip between a developer, a minister, and a member of the Premier's staff. CTV News confirmed they had massages at the same time. The commissioner also described the lobbying activities of Mr. X, revealed to be a former Clarington mayor who stood to gain a $1 million commission if the land was developed. One question for the police, says Duff Conacher of Democracy Watch, is if benefits flowed back to the people in power.
You break the ethics rules, then you're in the territory of breach of trust, and what has to be shown is that it was to benefit somebody for some purpose that goes against the public interest.
Any charge would end up in provincial courts with a provincial crown attorney, leading Conacher to call for a special prosecutor.
Yeah, we need a special prosecutor, not one appointed by the government, as it usually is, because that will taint it with political interference.
To make sure the investigation is above reproach.
We reached out to many of the staffers, lobbyists, and developers involved. We did not hear back from them. As for whether there will be a special prosecutor, we're still waiting to hear from the government on how they're going to handle that side of this scandal. Reporting live, I'm John Woodward. Back to you.
Thank you, John. And we'll have more on this story online. You can read more about the investigation and get the latest updates on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
They certainly didn't walk the picket line for long. Tonight, a strike by GM workers in Ontario is over.
It began when a deal couldn't be reached by midnight, but just hours later, the union and General Motors were able to find some middle ground. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live from the Sheridan Centre, where negotiations were taking place. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, this really was a very short strike. GM staff were ordered to report back to work for the 2:30 shift after the union and GM reached a tentative deal here at the Sheridan Centre around the noon hour.
General Motors employees started packing up their signs before 1:30 this afternoon, just minutes after confirming with their union the strike was over.
You know, I'm just happy to be done with it. But yeah, that's the quickest strike I've ever seen.
We're grateful to our bargaining committee. They did a great job and they worked really hard over the long weekend for us.
Unifor said General Motors was stubbornly refusing to match a 3-year deal it made with Ford Motor Company last month.
So we had to shut down 2 of their most critical and powerful parts of their chain in North America.
And 13 hours into strikes at its plants in Oshawa, St. Catharines and Woodstock, involving some 4,300 workers, GM capitulated. The union saying the U.S. automaker had accepted the pattern to the letter.
And we knew that getting this pattern was going to be an uphill battle because of the economic significance of the Ford agreement. The greatest wage increases that we've ever bargained in the auto sector in Canada.
The highlights of the tentative deal include 20% wage hikes for production and 25% increases for skilled trades. General wage increases of 10% in year 1, 2% in year 2, and a 3% hike in year 3. The conversion of all full-time temporary workers with 1 year of seniority to permanent status, and improvements to all pension plans.
I'm glad to see that we have a tentative agreement in place. I wish that we didn't have to take strike action to get GM to come to the table to negotiate a fair agreement.
Raising a small family is relieving to know that we got a good deal going forward. You know, economic times are tough.
GM, meanwhile, issued a statement this afternoon which reads, "This record agreement, subject to member ratification, recognizes the many contributions of our represented team members with significant increases in wages, benefits, and job security while building on GM's historic investments in Canadian manufacturing."
Unifor says this is an agreement that is going to change people's lives. The union says it will next set its sights on achieving a pattern deal with Stellantis, the merged Fiat Chrysler, and PSA Group. Reporting live from Janice Golding, now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. And still to come, the latest as violence continues in the Israel-Gaza war. The conflict claiming more lives, including confirmation of another Canadian. Those details coming up.
But first, let's take a live look outside. The Thanksgiving long weekend is over, and there's a definite autumn chill in the air. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lindsay.
And Nathan, it looks a little ominous outside at this hour. It's getting darker earlier. We've got some cloud cover that's returned and some wet weather impacting the west end of the GTA, Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, Milton, creeping into Mississauga and Brampton and headed our way in the city of Toronto. This is all thanks to a low pressure system that's simply been spinning and bringing rounds of rain, especially for areas north of the GTA over the last several days here. weather. We've got gusty winds that are coming out of the southwest. Temperature-wise, yeah, we climbed into the double digits today. We're still there at 10 degrees. Single digits in places like Halton Hills, Aurora, Innisfil. Overnight tonight, we're dropping to a low near 8 degrees, which is technically on the warm side of seasonal. And we are in for a little bit of a brief warm-up over the next couple of days before a cool down into next weekend. We'll talk all about it coming up in your weather forecast. For now, Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. A warning, this next story contains disturbing content. In the Middle East, Israel is continuing to pound Gaza following Saturday's deadly attack by Hamas, declared a terrorist group by Canada and many other Western nations.
The war has already claimed more than 1,800 lives on both sides, including that of 2 Canadians. CTV's Andree Perrault reports.
Israel continues its retaliation, launching airstrikes in central Gaza and near the Rafah border with Egypt. Israeli Defense Forces warning Hamas they have nowhere to hide. The shelling leveling entire neighborhoods, trapping victims and survivors under tons of rubble, as the death toll on both sides reaches over 1,800. Hospitals quickly becoming overwhelmed, their prepared medical supplies already exhausted, according to the World Health Organization. 4 days after Hamas's deadly terrorist attack, new atrocities have been uncovered in the small village of Kfar Aza. The Israeli government says 40 babies were killed and dozens others massacred.
And how the terrorists kill them, it's not a war, it's not a battlefield. It's a massacre, it's a terror activity.
In Ashkelon, Hamas continues to launch rockets into Israeli territory, while in Tel Aviv, rockets collapse this building, with some residents still inside.
The ceiling was on top of me and I was like sprawling the way out. And when I came out, the ambulance came and took me.
Tuesday, confirmation of a second Canadian killed. Ben Mizrachi is believed to have been at the Supernova Music Festival near the Israeli-Gaza border when he went missing Saturday. One of the estimated 260 people killed in the attack, including fellow Canadian Alexandra Look. Russia is blaming the escalating conflict as a failure of U.S. policy. Tehran is denying any involvement in the attack. The U.S. says they're strengthening their military position in the region and reinforcing their support for Israel.
To any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't.
And Adrian joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Adrian, what can you tell us about Canadians who've been captured?
Yeah, it's been very difficult days each hour without hearing reports of loved ones. Earlier today, we sat in the home of Vivian Silver's son. Vivian Silver has lived here for about 5 decades, though she was born in Winnipeg. She just traveled back to Winnipeg this summer. She's got family across the country. They were also in Toronto. Her and her son and her grandchildren all visited Toronto this summer. She's been an activist for peace. She's been an ally to the Palestinian people. And on Saturday morning, her son was on the phone with his mother as Hamas militants were outside. He could hear the gunfire. He heard them enter her home. She was hiding in a shelter, and they moved to text messaging. And the last note that he wrote was, "I love you," and then silence from his mother. And to this very moment, the family is unsure where she is, what her condition is, truth be told, whether or not she's even alive.
Oh, that must be excruciating. Adrian, there were also rockets launched towards Tel Aviv today, where you are tonight. Take us through what those moments were like.
Yeah, there was several rockets fired to multiple parts across Israel, as well as we've seen the images in Gaza, as we just showed in our report. Entire communities flattened, though earlier this afternoon we were in South Tel Aviv, where we heard not just one, not two, but 3 different air raid sirens. Ourselves, our crew, area residents all rushing into bomb shelters for cover. As we're downstairs, it was actually a parking garage, and they're all kind of built and reinforced as shelters in this part of the world. And as we were hiding down there and seeking shelter, you could hear explosions outside. One of those explosions appeared to have actually been the defense systems taking out a rocket just 50 meters from where we were in the shelter. When we came out, we found a large piece of shrapnel, which we believe was from a Hamas rocket. When we touched it, it was still warm. Just a small sample of what today has been like here in Tel Aviv and what so many people have been experiencing throughout the region for the last several days.
And there's no telling what the days ahead will bring. CTV's Adrian Gobriel live for us in Tel Aviv tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
We turn to new details in a disturbing story here at home and testimony at the Peter Nygard sex assault trial.
We want to warn you about the graphic content shared on the stand today. The witness was just a teenager when she says the former fashion mogul attacked her. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us from the University Avenue Courthouse with the latest. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, the complainant told the court today that back in 2005, she didn't know who Peter Nygard was, but she was excited to be invited to an extravagant party. But she said that night turned into the most traumatic experience of her life. In a fourth-floor courtroom, the second complainant in the Peter Nygard sex assault trial took the stand. A woman who was 16 years old when the alleged attack took place. The witness told the court that a man who she was casually seeing at the time offered to take her to a fashion designer's party. She was excited and went to Le Chateau at Vaughan Mills to buy a new outfit. I was expecting that there would be a party with maybe models, good-looking people, catering, drinks, she said. Did that happen, the Crown asked. No, she replied. Instead, she alleges her male friend drove her to a lavish building where they met Nygard and a woman who she assumed was his assistant. Nygard offered them a tour. We went quite a few floors up to his office, and through his office there was another room. And we went into that back room. It seemed ill-placed for an office. It had a bed in it. It had a bar. She told the court that Nygard made her a drink, and the four of them sat down. Nygard showed her photos of his personal plane and bragged about all the things he owned. He asked me if I modeled. I said, no, I have no interest. Weren't you flattered? The defense later asked her in cross-examination. You were a young person, dressed to the nines. He was very old, so it was not flattering, the complainant replied. But the conversation that night soon turned sexual, with the two men talking graphically about her body as she sat there on the bed. How are you feeling hearing these words come out of his mouth, the Crown asked. Scared, she replied. The complainant alleges that Nygard then forced himself upon her on the bed with the help of the other man, sexually assaulting her. Whose hands are on you, the Crown asked. Peter Nygard's. Shy of kicking him in the face and running, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I was starting to feel pretty weak and clouded. I remember feeling like I was starting to feel dizzy, nervous, scared, confused. She told the court that she did not agree to any of the sexual acts imposed on her, and that after it was over, she started to vomit, and the woman who had been there with Nygard gave her pills to take. It wasn't until years later, she said, that she saw those same pills again and realized they were Plan B, an emergency contraceptive. Nygard has pleaded not guilty to 5 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of forcible confinement. Asked today why she didn't go to the police at the time, the complainant said that it was difficult to rationalize what was going through her head back when she was just 16 years old. She had lied to her parents about where she was going that night and didn't tell them what happened until a couple of years ago when she decided to press charges. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Police are searching for a suspect after a young girl was sexually assaulted near Bloor and Dufferin. This is a photo of the suspect. Investigators say just after 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday, a man approached a 9-year-old girl from behind and sexually assaulted her. Her mother confronted the man, who ran away. He's described as being between 40 and 50 years old with long brown hair tied in a ponytail. We're entering cold and flu season, and officials are bracing for a surge of respiratory illness.
To fight back today, Toronto Public Health launched its annual vaccination campaign. It will include vaccination clinics for influenza and COVID-19, starting with priority groups, including residents and staff in congregate living settings, people 65 years or older, people who are pregnant, children 6 months to 4 years, people who are First Nation, Inuit, or Métis, members of racialized and other equity-deserving communities, and anyone with chronic underlying health conditions.
Starting October 31st, all Torontonians will be able to get an updated COVID-19 shot and flu vaccine at fixed site vaccination clinics, pharmacies, or primary health care providers. You can book later this month at tphbooking.ca. This information is also on our website. A pilot program which allowed people to drink alcohol in certain city parks has ended. The pilot ran from August 2nd to October 9th in 27 public parks across Toronto. The city is now conducting a survey on its website until October 16th to get feedback from people who took part. A report on the pilot project is expected to be presented to the city's Economic and Community Development Committee in the first quarter of 2024. We turn to an on-ice development involving the NHL, a move garnering a lot of attention from fans and players alike.
The league is banning rainbow-colored stick tape used during Pride Night. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live with the details. Raheem.
Michelle, it was less than a year ago that the NHL unveiled its first ever diversity and inclusion report, which it called a commitment towards equality in hockey. But many feel this latest decision does the exact opposite. As the National Hockey League drops the puck on a new season, the league's latest ruling is being called offside. It has sent a memo to all 32 teams banning the use of rainbow-colored stick tape for Pride nights.
It's unfortunate, but I think as players and as people and individuals, we're going to continue to support those people and those causes that we think need it or are worthy and very deserving of it.
Pride nights have been part of the NHL since 2013, but became controversial last season when the Philadelphia Flyers' Ivan Provorov became the first player to refuse to skate in warm-ups when the team wore rainbow-colored jerseys, citing his Russian Orthodox religion. Since then, 6 other players have followed, including Canadians James Reimer and Eric and Mark Stahl. Earlier this year, Commissioner Gary Bettman had this to say.
You don't endorse every single charity that solicits you, and you don't participate in every social cause. You pick and choose the ones that are important to you. The ones you don't choose to do don't necessarily make you bigoted, misogynistic, or homophobic, or racist.
The makers of Pride Tape say they are extremely disappointed in the NHL's decision and hope the league and teams will again show commitment to this important symbol of combating homophobia.
This organization, myself personally, we've always been supporters of the LGBTQ community. Nothing's going to change with that.
This directive from the NHL is not limited to only Pride Night. The league has also told teams they cannot wear jerseys and gear in support of Hockey Fights Cancer and military appreciation celebrations. Now, as this new directive comes into effect, the NHL also says that players can voluntarily take part in Pride celebrations off the ice. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Raheem. And all this comes as excitement builds for the start of another NHL season. The Leafs home opener is tomorrow night, and there's something new for fans inside Scotiabank Arena. We'll give you a look inside, still to come.
In Afghanistan, the chances of finding survivors of Saturday's earthquakes have diminished due to the passage of time. Search and rescue efforts are being scaled back in the northwest part of the country. At least 2,400 people were killed and more than 2,000 others were injured. Survivors are in dire need of medicine, food, and shelter as temperatures drop. Relief and rescue efforts have been hampered by the crumbling infrastructure. The UN is providing $5 million in assistance, but immediate support has come from just a few countries.
We are expecting more deterioration, not just in health, but in other aspects that will definitely impact the health of the Afghans, limiting the services.
The World Health Organization says the world's attention is directed to the Middle East, and many governments are also wary of dealing directly with the Taliban government.
A man climbed the outside of a Chicago high-rise today, finding a special welcoming committee at the top. He scaled the 40-story tower this morning without ropes or any climbing equipment. But of course, this is illegal, and police were waiting for him when he completed the climb. Officers say it was some kind of publicity stunt, but did not provide further details. In addition to the potential danger, nearby streets had to be closed down.
We will see the results tomorrow of a space mission in which Canada played a key role. NASA is set to unveil some of the 4.5 billion-year-old samples collected from an asteroid. A spacecraft grabbed rubble from the space rock in 2020. And last month, a capsule carrying the pebbles and dust returned down to Earth. The mission used a Canadian-built instrument to help create a 3D map of the asteroid's surface. Canada is receiving a portion of the recovered samples.
Meanwhile, there's also something special in the skies over New Mexico this week. The Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta is underway. The 9-day event showcases hundreds of hot air balloons taking to the sky. It began in 1972 with 13 balloons launched from a mall parking lot. Currently, the Fiesta features around 500 balloons sent skyward from a special 147-hectare park.
Well, this is serious money. The Powerball jackpot is now the second largest in the history of the lottery.
Starting out with 67, and right after that, America, we have the number 34.
There was no winner last night, so more than $1.7 billion will be up for grabs in the next draw tomorrow night. The odds of hitting the jackpot are about 1 in 292 million. The largest Powerball prize was just over $2 billion in California last November. Coming up, Roy Orbison's iconic songs reinterpreted, woven into an all-new musical by an award-winning team. Still ahead, we've got a peek at In Dreams on stage now in Toronto.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, there are so many banking scams to watch out for. You have to make sure you protect your information. A Pickering woman waiting for a lung transplant says she just got scammed out of almost $4,000. I'll have that story just ahead.
We're now 10 days into October, and already we've had more rain than all of September, with more on the way for many. Now, tomorrow will bring some dry periods, so it will be a good day to get into the yard for some fall cleanup. Those gusty winds over the long weekend may have brought down some leaves in your neighborhood. A full look at your weather forecast is just ahead, and stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
There are many scams to watch out for when it comes to banking, such as fraud involving checks and e-transfers.
As customers, we have to keep our banking information safe, and if we don't, the bank won't always give you your money back. Here's Pat Foran and a Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle. And Nathan, a Pickering woman was shocked when almost $4,000 was taken from her bank account. It was done by e-transfers. And while she doesn't know how she was hacked, the bank says it's her fault and she won't get a refund.
$4,000 is a lot of money for me.
Andree Perrault of Pickering just retired from teaching. She's on a waiting list for a lung transplant and requires a constant flow of oxygen. In August, she got her first pension check, but was shocked to see someone made 2 e-transfers out of her account, totaling almost $4,000.
I thought, my gosh, what's going on? $4,000 less. And so I called immediately my bank.
The bank told her someone hacked into her account and her email to request a 2-factor authentication code. With it, they were able to make the e-transfers.
The bank said that they had my password and my bank card number, which is weird because I had it with me. I've never lost it at all.
Banks generally will replace funds stolen by scammers unless a customer has not protected their personal information. Perrault was with the Bank of Montreal, and a spokesperson told CTV News it is the customer's responsibility to protect their account information, mobile, online banking passwords, and PIN information at all times. Perrault was told she must have compromised her banking information and that she will not be getting her money back.
Yes, the scammer are getting fancy, but then there's no reason not to give you money back. Like, I didn't do this.
BMO says to prevent bank fraud, regularly change passwords, never disclose passwords or one-time passcodes. Contact the bank immediately if you're a victim of fraud. Update banking apps when new versions are available, and sign up for BMO alerts to view activity on accounts. Perrault has decided to appeal the bank's decision and has escalated her complaint to the Ombudsman for Banking Services and Investments.
This is my money in their hand. Maybe we should put our money under our pillows instead. It would be safer.
And if you have a problem with a bank you can't resolve, you can file a complaint with the Ombudsman for Banking Services. It's free to do, and they'll review your issue to say if they feel you deserve compensation. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, this is shaping up to be an evening to just stay inside and stay cozy. It's cool, and then we've got a nice big chunk of rain coming in.
Yeah, I guess we've kind of been without rain for quite a while, so maybe this is a good thing.
I do think it's interesting that we spent so many weeks talking about how little rain we've had, and then all of a sudden, depending on where you spent the Thanksgiving long weekend, you may have had plenty of it. And it's true, we are looking at the next round of rain moving in for this evening, and really over the next several days here, we've got a chance of showers just about every day, with an unsettled pattern returning by next weekend too. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. That wet weather now making its way through Mississauga, into Brampton, and through the Etobicoke area, downtown Toronto as well, just starting to approach areas like North York, Markham, and eventually this is going to slide its way into Durham region too. This is all part of a bigger low pressure system. This is what we call a cutoff low, because this low is simply circulating. It's not moving out very quickly. And some of those areas that I mentioned that have seen so much rain over the last couple of days around southern Georgian Bay, in through Muskoka, continuing to see lake effect showers as a result of those gusty winds as well. We here in the GTA are seeing a swath of system rain moving through. This low is going to be with us for another day or two before things really start to ease. Looks like Thursday is going to be a pretty pleasant day with less in the way of wet weather. Here's early tomorrow morning. I do want to show that some of this rain is going to taper off to our north as we make our way through the day. Keep the umbrella handy tomorrow afternoon. There will be dry periods with variable cloudiness. And then there's Thursday, so drier for just about everyone. Mainly sunny skies at times in the afternoon. That's going to be a nice change of pace. But then the next round of rain moves in time for next weekend. Gusty winds going to be part of the story tomorrow as well. There's about 4 o'clock for your Wednesday. Winds around 40 to maybe 50 kilometers per hour. Our current temperature in Toronto is 10 degrees. It's 9 in Wyerton as well as Windsor. Only 5 in Timmins. A reminder that some parts of northern Ontario got snow over the long weekend. 8 is our forecast low here tonight. That's on the warm side of seasonal. Tomorrow is a seasonal day. 15 degrees for the high. That's a little bit warmer than we were today. Tomorrow's highs right across the board in the low double digits. That's going to be a bit of a pattern going forward. Friday looks like a pleasant day still, mix of sun and cloud. If you have plans on Saturday, it might not be a bad idea to start thinking of a backup indoor option. Few showers could follow us into Sunday and perhaps Monday of next week too. That's your look at the weather. Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Balancing life and loss, a one-of-a-kind bereavement retreat program that provides support and hope and brings grieving families together. That story coming up.
Grief is something we will likely all experience in our lives.
The loss of friends, family, and other loved ones can leave painful voids. But as CTV's Allison Hurst reports, one program is giving people hope and helping them cope.
For about 8 years, Crystal Blair has been balancing life and grief.
I lost my husband in 2015. Carson was only 2.5 when he passed away.
Her husband, Francis Herlihy, was killed in a car crash, ripping apart her family of 3.
The first thing he said to me is like, oh, that's okay, Daddy's just charging. Because, you know, when your phone dies, you just charge them up and they can come back. And unfortunately, I had to explain to him that that wasn't how it worked.
Carson Herlihy, now 11, clings to the memories of his dad.
He was really strong. He worked as a heavy machinery operator, and I remember one time he took me inside one of his heavy machines. I think it was a bulldozer and then also an excavator. I like the excavator.
In 2020, Blair gave birth to twins, Josiah, born strong, and Kyla, who weighed just 1 pound 10 ounces. She only lived 3 hours.
She had intrauterine growth restriction, like a severe case of it. It's hard to see him grow up and not wonder the milestones that she'd be accomplishing as well.
Herlihy never had a chance to meet his sister.
I just wonder what it would have been like if if Kyla did survive and she was here with us right now.
While pregnant with the twins, Blair discovered Camp Carey, a bereavement retreat program run by Lumera that brings grieving families together for 4 days.
It helps people start to create a community of support of people like them in similar situations who understand.
The camp offers group and music therapies, support groups, and outdoor adventures. It brings all ages together and is open to extended family and guardians.
When you strengthen the family support, you strengthen the chances of that child having a better outcome.
Dr. Heather Mohan started the program when she felt this was missing in the healthcare system. The unique program is offered in BC and Ontario with a $750 fee per family, about a third of the actual cost. Mohan says there have been an unprecedented number of referrals this year and fundraising is key.
In Ontario, we were at sort of 8 to 10 families, and that has tripled. So now we were able to offer spaces to about 23 families this year.
Blair says she's forever grateful for the experience and wishes it was more widely available.
Wouldn't it be great to see it be a national thing where it's all over Canada and everybody can get the supports that they need?
Today, October 10th, marks what would have been her 13th wedding anniversary with her husband.
He really completed me, and sometimes I don't know who I am without him.
She and her family are packing for Camp Carey, heading to this year's retreat as a peer mentor near Huntsville on Thursday. Alison Hurst, CTV News.
BC has become the first province to sign a tailored healthcare funding agreement with Ottawa.
These dollars are about expanding access to family health teams, about working to ensure that everyone has a relationship with a family doctor in their home community, be that rural, remote, or urban. This money is about supporting healthcare workers and reducing backlogs. It's about increasing mental health and substance use support and modernizing healthcare systems.
British Columbia will get $1.2 billion over the next 3 years. It's part of a $196 billion national health accord offered by the Prime Minister in February. Every province and territory has signed an agreement in principle except for Quebec.
It's called a jukebox musical, a play with songs you know embedded into a story you don't.
The latest one to hit the Toronto stage is In Dreams, featuring the music of Roy Orbison. And our Andrea Case joins us now. And Andrea, we've all heard Roy Orbison's songs, whether we know it's him or not. How many hits does he have?
A lot, Michelle. I, too, was surprised. At least 20 I counted in the show, and they're all part of the show In Dreams. The beauty of a musical like this is you know the songs, but the way they are presented can make you see and feel like them in a whole new light.
I drove all night to get to you. Is that all right?
In Dreams, Canadian playwright David West Reed has taken the songs of Roy Orbison and spun them into a tale of a woman who wants to celebrate her life while she's still alive.
It's written by a clever writer, so it works. And so you're not just, some people can roll their eyes at the jukebox genre, but done properly, you feel like you're watching a new piece of theatre with the safety blanket of very catchy tunes.
Oliver Thompson plays the roguish Ramsay. He is familiar with the genre. A long career on the London stage includes playing William Shakespeare in West Reed's last big hit, and Juliet.
If he doesn't write it with you in mind, they cast someone who has the element, but then because they're present in the workshops and the writing process, they get to pull out the absolute best of the humans and find, you know, writing a character, I'd imagine, for writers, I'm not a writer, on paper is all good and well, but until you get a human element to sort of bring it to life, it doesn't really soar. And that's what's happening in this show, like it did with their previous success, that these characters really soar.
And reaching new heights is newcomer Nassim Ramirez in the role of a pregnant restaurant co-owner who hosts a Day of the Dead party in her restaurant. Ironically, Ramirez, an Ottawa native, had just graduated from theater school in Mississauga and was working as a waitress back home when she heard about casting for In Dreams.
It was my first ever self-tape, first ever audition with her, and then I sent it, and then she's like, oh, that was great, so professional, like, very good, like, probably won't get it, obviously, because, like, they're, like, looking everywhere, and I was like, oh, yeah, so true. Like, yeah, and then I got a call back, and then I got the job, and then they took me to England for 2 weeks, and it happened so fast, and I was like, oh, my God.
And it's the perfect show for her first professional gig. Of Iranian and Mexican descent, the Mexican themes in the show make her feel right at home. And for Thompson, the lessons are universal.
I find the show very emotive, and I think of the people that I've lost in my life every night. And I like to think that through the story and through those cultures and what we talk about in the show, I sort of honour them in that way, which maybe I haven't really given as much thought or as much as respect to in the past.
In Dreams is on stage now at the Edinburgh Theatre in Toronto until November 12th.
And the show has a stamp of approval from the Orbison estate. Roy's son, Alex, and his wife, Erica, attended the show last Wednesday. Now, along with his two brothers, they manage Orbison's legacy. Alex told the cast the show is a very fitting tribute to my dad as an artist. And reporting for CTV News, I'm Andrea Case. Have a good night.
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
After the break, home ownership on hold. A new survey reveals the extent at which inflation is putting the brakes on home buying plans.
On the next CP24 Breakfast.
The Buds are back and we're live at Scotiabank Arena looking ahead to the upcoming season, and we'll also have some great giveaways for Leafs fans.
And that's on the next CP24 Breakfast, up first at 5:30.
I don't want the Premier to use this as a way to hide from us and our questions on behalf of the people of Ontario.
Updating our top stories, the RCMP will investigate to see if any laws were broken when the Greenbelt was opened up for development. The government says it will cooperate fully with any probe.
A 3-year deal has been reached after GM workers in Ontario walked off the job today. After just 13 hours, the automaker agreed to match the contract Ford Canada workers will receive. It includes general wage hikes of 10% in the first year.
There's 2,500 Canadians who've registered with the embassy in Israel, 500 of them that have registered in Gaza and the West Bank.
The Foreign Affairs Minister says Canada will send military aircraft to evacuate citizens from Israel in the coming days. Global Affairs is aware of one confirmed death of a Canadian and reports of a second death. 3 other Canadians are reported missing.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar is up a fraction to 73.65 U.S. American benchmark oil lost 41 cents to close at 85.97 U.S. a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index jumped 255 points to end the day at 19,501.
Inflation is impacting Canadians in so many ways, including the decision to get into the real estate market. A new survey finds 62% of respondents have delayed buying a home. Rising interest rates top the list as the reason why, followed by high home prices, the cost of living, not being able to sell their current home, and lack of availability, or they simply change their mind.
The poll by real estate agency Zoocasa also found just over 38% of respondents would move to another city in order to afford a home, but not another province. More than 35% said they would not consider moving to either another city or province, while a little over 26% responded yes to both options.
Raising the game at Scotiabank Arena, a sneak peek at the multi-million-dollar renovation plan that promises to take the fan experience to a higher level. That's after the break.
Finally tonight, we're setting the stage for another season of exciting NHL hockey.
Puck drops on the Maple Leafs' first regular season game tomorrow night against the Montreal Canadiens.
Who's ready for another amazing hockey season?
To celebrate the home opener, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow helped raise the Maple Leafs flag outside City Hall over the noon hour today. Hopes are also high among Leafs Nation for a successful season. As CTV's Sean Leathong reports, there's some big changes to the fan experience at Scotiabank Arena.
A $350 million renovation to Scotiabank Arena is coming, and it aims to enhance the entire fan experience.
That's going to create an energy for the fan when they arrive. I think it's going to create an excitement.
Announced this morning ahead of the start of the Leafs and Raptors seasons, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment says next year the 100-level concourse will get a wholesale facelift.
So we're going to use LED technology to really sort of immerse the fan in the Maple Leafs game that they're coming to, or the Raptors game that they're coming to, or the Drake concert.
That includes new merchandise and concessions, or, for those lucky enough, there'll be a new tunnel club for dining with a view of the players entering the surface. And there are a few new features this season, with a renovation of the 200 level where most private suites reside, and the new large MasterCard lounge.
This previously was 12 traditional suites. We've renovated those 12 traditional suites to create this exciting new members-only club.
While these seats will be unattainable for most regular fans, MasterCard is offering a sweepstakes for cardholders. Along the hallway, MLSE put a call out to local artists and chose the best of the best to hang here.
Honestly, I'm amazed. I really didn't know what to expect, and it's just mind-blowing, and I'm still like processing it.
Creating art for an institution like this permanently is kind of amazing, so I'm thankful for that.
Mark Stoddard's work is a nod to Canadian basketball history, while Samantha Wadge created her work using hockey equipment as a paintbrush. One of the newest features already in place here at Scotiabank Arena is the Just Walk Out section. You simply scan your credit card and pick anything you want off of these shelves, whether it's food or drink. You just grab what you want, and then you just walk out.
And that transaction, it automatically charges you to the credit card you've entered with. Should take anywhere between 15 to 45 seconds. Truly revolutionary in terms of the way retail is going to be done.
MLSE says they hope to expand the Just Walk Out section for next season, while also looking towards the future phases beyond 2025. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
You excited for the season?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be the year. Right?
Okay, he said it.
Yeah.
This is a night where we've got some rain, and there's more to come this week.
Yeah, I think if you're venturing out this evening, you don't want to forget the umbrella, just in case. We have some widespread rain impacting the west end of the GTA. That's going to slide its way east as we make our way through the next couple of hours here. Waking up tomorrow morning, 8 degrees around the time the kids are hopping on the school bus. Variable cloudiness, and you guessed it, a chance of showers during the day once again. But the afternoon doesn't look like a total write-off by any means. Go on out and enjoy your pumpkin patch in the afternoon. 7-day forecast looks like this. Once again, some poorly timed rain over the weekend and slightly cooler temperatures at that point too. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Be sure to join Sandy Ronaldo tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.